Welcome to part two of having a shared vision of a student. The goal of these two discussions is to define and develop a shared vision for high quality teaching and learning. Part one was in October, the asynchronous video in October. So if you need to find it, that's where you can look on the website. This is part two. So in the previous discussion, we discussed creating a shared vision with stakeholders. In this session, we will do a little bit of reflection about what to do next, what our next steps may be. In the book, Instructional Leadership in Mathematics, there's the following figure. Please pause the video and read the figure. Press play when you're ready to continue. When writing down the skills, attributes, etc. that we wanted our students to develop, that part was easy. We can generally hash that out in about an hour. This is infinitely more difficult on our part, as we as the school leaders now need to develop this vision into a reality. And here are 6 or 7 key ideas that we need to address as we start putting our plan into action. Usually when we talk about how we have a vision or an ideal, we talk about how we have a reality and we need to bridge our idea into our vision or our ideal. And I'd like to propose a different visual. In this visual, we'll never actually arrive at our vision. Rather, we move from reality to reality. As I said in our live session, making big changes in any department or system is hard, and it takes many small changes to accomplish. In my current school, we are currently in year 5 with our math department. We may never reach our ideals, and that's okay. What's important is that we continually strive for improvement, that we improve our current reality. I don't know what the research will say in 20 years or what education will even look like. And so it's okay that as our realities shift, our vision will shift, and we'll just continually look at adjusting and critiquing our vision and our reality. Additionally, you'll only be able to move as quickly or as far as your staff is ready for. As leaders, we try to create change that happens organically, but sometimes that's also not necessarily an option. And so the point being here that it's a long process. We change at the rate our staff will let us. Sometimes we let that be organic. Sometimes it's less organic, and we give some directives. But really, the idea is that we're not going to arrive at our vision. Our vision's going to change, critique. What's important is that our reality does change and it does improve, and we move from reality to reality. So if you look back at this figure, there's a few resources I'd like to point out. You may be further than you actually think. As we looked at this in our school, and we took an inventory of where we were at and what we had and what we were doing, we were a little bit further than we thought. We had a ways to go and we had some things to adjust, but we definitely already had some of these pieces. And I'd like to talk about a couple resources that may be beneficial to you. So first, on the 4th question here, it says, how does or will your vision address common expectations for student learning outcomes? There's 2 parts to this. Part 1 is talking about outcomes of what do we want foundationally for all of our students to learn. But part 2 is having common expectations. I work in a larger school, and it's important that we have some fidelity among our teachers. And whether you have 12 teachers or you have 2 teachers, the concept is the same. And so for part of that, something we've used is a book that's very thought-provoking, and it is regarding grades. It's called The Repair Kit for Grading by Keith O'Connor. And let me just preface this book by saying not everything in the book is going to be simple to grapple with, and some things you may not even agree with, and that's okay. What it does do a good job of is it gives you things to really think about, and it's worth having those conversations that can help everyone align their grading practices. The second I'd like to talk about is that looks like sixth bullet, where it says, how will your vision address access to equity and meaningful mathematics? When we talk about equity and we talk about access, again, we may already have some things in place. And so usually when we talk about access and equity, we talk about interventions, and it's a little more prevalent in the elementary schools than secondary schools. Usually elementary schools do a little bit better job with interventions than secondary. But this can be anything. You need to broaden that scope, that our interventions could be anything from homework help to lab classes to Title I support if you're a Title I school, the paras, there's special education, there's lots of things that you may already have to help address access and equity. And so it would be worth your time to take an inventory of the supports you already do have that provide access and equity, and then you can consider some of the things that you may be lacking or that you may want to adjust. The third item I'd like to talk about is the very last one. I know it seems silly that I'm actually only talking about the last three, but it is what it is. How does your vision align to everyday instructional practices? The nice thing about this support is that we're already going through the high leverage practices from principles to action and through our Idaho instructional framework. This can, the easy part, again, is learning about the high leverage practices. The hard part is communicating these practices with teachers and staff. Last week, I had a teacher tell me that they already know what I'm looking for in an observation. And I said, that's interesting. What am I looking for? And he told me what he was looking for, and that was different, what he thought I was looking for, and that was different than what I'm actually looking for. We had a very insightful conversation about instruction and what instructional practices, everyday instructional practices would look like as we talk about our vision for what we want. In case you're wondering, briefly, in my one line, I told him I wanted to see students thinking, that I didn't necessarily care what mode of instruction or what strategies he employed or any other staff member employed. I just want to see evidence of student thinking. And so when we talk about instructional practices and what the teachers are doing, there's never one set effective way. There's lots of ways, but that was what I wanted him to know, that that's what I was looking for. So I wanted to show you this. This is again from the book Instructional Leadership in Mathematics Education. And this is a quick check of how you can formatively assess your situation about defining and developing a shared vision. Pause the video for a moment and read through the assessment. Then press play when you're ready to continue. Hopefully, this helps you articulate where you might be able to make adjustments as a leader. At this point, we've talked about vision and there's stuff we can all do. The next is really a school by school, case by case, situation by situation, school year by school year, place. That there's a lot of things we can commonly talk about, but really the application, what that looks like for you and your school is going to vary vastly based on where your school is at. When you think about your school, I thought it might be insightful that I show you the guidance we've received from the state. The state has published this document, the Math Transitions Pathways, and hopefully you've seen this before, but if you haven't, this is a document to communicate the importance of math pathways in our school system. The goal being that students are prepared for one of 3 math courses that they would take after high school or at the end of their high school career, which would be math in the modern society, which would be for the arts, trades, communication. They would take they'd be prepared for statistical reasoning, which would be a health, business, or social science degree pursuit, or they would be prepared for the STEM fields, that they would take pre-calculus or college algebra, math 143 and 144, or that they could take calculus. The important thing is that we understand that not all kids are going to go take calculus, and they don't need calculus in their high school or college careers. And so when we think about math and we think about student choices, that we create pathways for students to be successful, not just those students who want to go into the STEM fields. One last thing, just as you're going down into the weeds of the everyday work of, developing vision, what we're asking our teachers to do, we ask them to do very difficult things day in and day out. And so it's easy for us, teachers, staff, to kind of lose sight. It's important as you're going through your vision, you're talking about all of this stuff, that you remember that we all want the same thing. We want kids to be successful. We want them to be well-rounded. We're going to have different ideas about how we move forward into those realities, but it's important that we know and remember that we're all pulling on the same team. So that concludes this discussion on vision and developing vision for our schools. If you have any questions or concerns, please, and concerns about anything, please reach out to me. My contact is here.